I shot my first documentary and wanted to share what I learned from this great experience. I went to New York Fashion Week with designer Prep Curry, who happens to be my cousin, and I was able to tell the story of what a designer goes through on show day. Now, I don't want to get into a debate of what's a documentary versus a vlog or anything in between, but this was from a cinematic and documentarian perspective of telling the story about a subject that wants something. First, we'll talk about gear, which is always a popular topic. 98% of the footage was shot with my Sony FX3. Now, obviously this is a high quality camera that produces a great image, but more importantly for this project is the audio versatility. The FX3 has an audio top handle that has 2 XLR ports and a 3.5mm input, meaning you can have multiple audio sources going at once. I knew I wanted to leave a wireless lav on prep for the entire day, but I also wanted to have a shotgun to get additional audio. My audio sources were the Rode Wireless Go 2 for the lav and the Rode NT-G5 for the shotgun. As with any good documentary, we did a sit-down talking head interview, and I still just used the lav for that. The goal for this project was minimalism, and I didn't want to bring a microphone stand just to boom the shotgun mic. Now, while that may have made the audio incrementally better, I think it still turned out just fine.
Because this is what I'm doing it for. I want people to actually see what I'm doing and understand it and gravitate toward it more so than just saying, oh, this is some dope clothes.
I feel great, honestly.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
I was a little nervous, but after seeing the runway, it kind of like put ease in my mind, and like now it's just like I'm just ready to just do it now.
The only lens I used was the Tamron 28-75. For a project like this, a zoom lens is going to be your best friend. It eliminates the need to constantly switch lenses and also gave me the opportunity to zoom in while staying more in the shadows, which was my role anyway. A few shots were taken with the Sony ZV-E10. I brought that camera specifically for its small form factor and great image quality, and I paired that with the also small Sigma 18-50 lens. All the sound design came from Epidemic Sound to include both the sound effects and music, and there was one piece of stock footage in the very beginning that came from Envato Elements. Now let's talk about my role as the documentarian, which I took very seriously. My role was to stay out of the way but do what I could to get good shots. Prep having a good fashion show was obviously the #1 priority, and everything else took a back seat. So to that end, I often took a fly on the wall approach to get some great angles and great shots, but to make sure nothing I did held up any progress. I did learn that being extra nice and personable with everyone made them much more comfortable with me filming them. I will admit I did have a built-in advantage for this project, being as I was there to film models who were literally there to be seen and get as much publicity as possible. Lucky for me, I didn't have anyone shy away from the camera.
I don't know if it looks good with like my back.
If you like this video, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd hit the like button and consider subscribing, as it really helps grow the channel to more wonderful people. Next, every documentary needs a story. Now, I don't pretend to be a great or established documentarian, but I have learned the #1 rule of a good documentary is you need a subject that wants something. Thanks to Mark Bone and Luke Forsyth for the tip. My story is that Prep wants to have a great show, which would mean exposure and growth for his brand. Now, to do that, he needs awesome clothes and great models to show them off. The models are actually a variable to that happening because he'd never met them before. He actually met them for the first time just a couple hours before the runway, and even learned at that time that a few of them had never modeled before. So Prep had to step in and counsel them and calm some nerves, and not to spoil anything, they turned out great.
Constantly, as you're walking down the runway, show off the garments. If you got on a jacket, it's okay to unzip it and show it.
Next, let's talk about the talking head interview, which typically forms the backbone of a documentary. After I reflected on everything that happened on show day, I sat down and wrote some questions and prompts for a sit-down interview the following morning. Prep's a very personable guy. I knew all I had to do was lob him some softballs and he would hit him out of the park. As expected, he delivered, and that interview forms the backbone of the documentary. I didn't travel with a key light, so I just opened the windows to let in as much natural light as possible, and I found the best framing in our small Airbnb apartment. I purposely framed the shot a bit wide so I could crop in some in post and give the illusion of a 2-camera shoot, and I also added a hint of camera shake to increase that effect. And finally, I want to talk about what I learned. There's a learning experience in every project, and because this was my first documentary, I definitely learned a lot. The first thing I learned is the importance of planning ahead as much as possible, both in terms of story and gear. I'm really glad I thought about gear pretty thoroughly beforehand, because not only did I want to pack light, but I organized my bag so that anytime I needed anything during the shoot day, it was right there and I could grab it really quickly. Admittedly, I could have done a bit better with a pre-interview with my subject to plan out some shots in the story beforehand, because here I had to rely a little bit heavy on the edit. It happened to work out here, but it could have gone the other way. I also learned the importance of getting a wide variety of footage, both in terms of action and focal lengths. In real time, I felt like I was shooting all day and was going to have way more footage than I could ever hope to use. But when I got in the edit, I still found myself wanting more. So get a wide variety of shots, wide, medium, and tight, to give yourself lots of options to choose from. Overall, I had a blast on this project and learned a ton. There's no doubt this experience is going to carry over into what I hope are a lot more behind the scenes type experiences. And if you like this video, here are some others to help you on your video creation journey.